You're listening to the Assembly on Respiratory Structure and Function podcast, brought to you by the American Thoracic Society.
Welcome to the kickoff podcast for the PhD and Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group of the American Thoracic Society. I'm Dr. Kelly Toth. I'm a nurse scientist and assistant professor of critical care medicine and nursing at the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm the working group representative from the Nursing Assembly and the subcommittee chair for equity and ATS opportunities. I'll be hosting today's episode focused on who we are. In our podcasts, we want to highlight the diverse voices, backgrounds, and expertise of PhD and basic and translational scientists within the ATS community. Our goal is to give you an inside look at the people behind the science, those driving discovery, advancing care, and shaping the future of pulmonary critical care and sleep research. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by two incredible members of our working group, Dr. Claudia Staab-Weijnitz, an associate professor in Pediatrics, Pulmonary, and the Pulmonary Sciences and Critical Care Medicine at the University of Colorado, and Dr. Jarrod Barnes, an associate professor of medicine at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Both Claudia and Jarrod bring unique perspectives to our community. Their scientific journeys, research focus, and commitment to collaboration reflect what makes PBTS such an essential part of the ATS. Claudia has been involved in ATS at the Respiratory Cell and Molecular Biology Planning Committee and is very active and productive as the proposal subcommittee chair for PBTS. We're also super fortunate to have Jarrod here today as he's the current co-chair of PBTS and is also very involved in the ATS Pulmonary Circulation Assembly. So let's go ahead and get started. Claudia, could you introduce yourself? Where are you from, and how did you first become interested in a career in pulmonary research?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to be on this podcast. I'm really excited. I'm from Germany. I studied biochemistry. I did stuff like thermodynamic stability of proteins, like real basic science, but I realized quite early in my career I wanted to do something biomedical. I wanted to be in biomedical research. So I did a PhD in Stockholm at the Karolinska and then moved on, did two postdocs. And when I really got into pulmonary science, that was with Oliver Eichelberg, at the Helmholtz Center Munich at the Comprehensive Pneumology Center. And this is really where I started basic and translational pulmonary research work. And Oliver was a wonderful mentor, and he also got me involved in the ADS, basically. That's what got me started. And then I became a principal investigator at Helmholtz Munich, started my own group, got some federal funding, and finally got recruited to the University of Colorado like a year ago. So amazing. I'm totally new to the US system and NIH funding system and figuring it all out. And I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Well, we're very happy to have you here. Jarrod, could you do the same and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Jarrod Barnes, as Kelly has already introduced a little bit about me. Claudia, we are excited to have you here in the States. My background is, weirdly enough, similar to Claudia's, that I did a lot of molecular dynamics, thermodynamic kind of stuff early on. Got a master's in computational chemistry and really wanted to move more onto the bench. I was always like kind of looking over my shoulder at the bench, those people working there, and wanted to do a little more wet lab science, and started really working at the Complex Carbohydrate Research Center in Athens, Georgia. So I went to the University of Georgia there, got my master's and PhD there in glycobiology. So it was really biochemistry, glycobiology every day. And just really was passionate, still very passionate about glycobiology and all that it offers in terms of the roles of sugars and how they regulate cells and proteins. And taken from there, after leaving that Complex Carbohydrate Center with my PhD, I did not realize how that degree in background in glyco would kind of catapult my ability to get a postdoc position. And I was recruited at a couple of different places. Winded up where I went to the Cleveland Clinic to work with Ryan Dwake, who is now our president-elect for ATS. He was my mentor there, and that's how I got my first exposure into pulmonary, so pulmonary hypertension. I remember one of our first discussions was, hey, you can work on anything in pulmonary as long as it's pulmonary hypertension, and you make me look good, make me look good and work in pulmonary hypertension. So we always had a really good, close relationship. And I actually had good mentorship like Claudia from Ryan Dwake, who was very supportive of everything I wanted to do, and an epitome of a servant leader. And I took that away from him. And while I was there, I was able to get a K99 ROO. Also helped him with his RO1s and his other grants. We worked really well together. We had a great success. And it was very sad, bittersweet when I left to move. I was recruited to UAB and the pulmonary division here within the Department of Medicine. I was an assistant professor then and rose pretty quickly, and now an associate. And I started at UAB in 2017, and now an associate. And with that, I've built my background, and at least my research is focused on glycobiology and how those glycans and glycosylation regulate different proteins, their function in pulmonary diseases. I've expanded from pulmonary hypertension into other pulmonary diseases as well, but I still reside in pulmonary arterial hypertension, wanting to study that, and that's why I've been very active with the Pulmonary Circulation Assembly at ATS too. So all that said, I think it's been a good journey. I've actually enjoyed the journey, and I hope it continues, giving me a journey and something to strive for, because it's been a really fun path.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for sharing a little bit about your background. It's always interesting to hear different paths and experiences and how that's shaped careers of scientists in our community. And I think that you both have a theme that many of us identify with, and that mentorship is such a key part of our journey. And I think that's a really huge strength of ATS as well, which we can talk about a little bit. So it sounds like your mentors really got you involved with the American Thoracic Society. Can you tell me a little bit about how that introduction went and your first experience with ATS?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start it. For me, it was, man, I was excited. I was nervous. And I remember stepping foot at my first ATS. I believe it was, I feel like it was in California. I feel like it was in San Diego. I think that was my first one. And it was so big. As a research scientist coming in, that seemed huge. It seemed more clinical to me than more research, until I got the experience of ATS and got my feet under me. But the place, it felt like it was like daunting. How am I going to navigate this? But excited to navigate it. And I remember my mentor, right, Dr. Dwake, that's what I call him, Dr. Dwake, was really good about taking me along with him to different events, hey, you should check out this research, you should check out this. And I actually stayed close with him for the most part, but he introduced me to a lot of folks, and that made me less apprehensive. And just him introducing me, taking me around, and just seeing how he works and moves through ATS was really helpful. That was a big benefit for me, and really started seeing, hey, there's a lot of really good research here. This could be a home for me to really, and it's big enough where there's a home and there's a lot of ways to get involved. So I was super stoked about that after my first ATS.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Claudia?
So first of all, for me, like traveling to the US, that already was a big deal. I hadn't been doing that a lot before going to ATS. I think my first one was 2014, and I don't remember much about that one, I have to admit, but I remember 2015 when that was the year when I was told during ATS that my Blue Journal paper was accepted. So I will never forget that moment when we were sitting in that session and like Oliver, my former mentor, turns back to me and looks at me and he's like, thumbs up. And I don't know. That's like something I kind of I kind of think about when I think about ATS conferences, that and the connection with the ATS journals and meeting the editors and meeting people that are really key to your field. And again, Oliver and other people in the community have been really sharing their network with me. That has been extremely helpful. And then I've been initiating things as well, not from the very start, but increasingly more. So I was taking part in these mentoring activities. So at some point, I was even signing up for both the RCMB and the RSF mentoring activity. And I met Scott Randall, for instance, who was key later in my research when we had problems with bronchial epithelial cell culture. I could always contact him. He was an external advisor for one of my PhD candidates for their PhD thesis. So the contacts, the networking, and that really got kicked off by my mentor, but I made sure I kept it going afterwards. And that really is one of the highlights of the ATS community.
Definitely.
For me.
Definitely.
And then, I mean, about going to the ATS conference, that's also something about sharing network. Oliver would always make sure we knew about all the receptions, right? So we would be like reception hopping like crazy. And now
we did the same, Claudia. I bet we probably crossed paths at those receptions. The receptions are, as most people know, are awesome. So
yes, so that's been just amazing. I think that's the main thing for me. Yes, and getting involved in ATS, I was also being encouraged to like submit proposals early, and some of them have been denied, but I have been programmed, and I had a sunrise seminar in 2016, which also was like a really unique experience, like getting up 6 a.m. and giving this seminar. Yeah, it's fun. So I love doing these things, getting involved and being in the ATS community.
Yeah, it's so fun to think about those early introductions to ATS and, that feeling of being kind of starstruck by the people you meet and the people your mentors connect you with. I remember my first ATS and the same kind of experience where I went along with my mentor and he kind of took me under his wing and introduced me to people. And I was thinking, wow, I've been citing this person since my early PhD, It's just so funny.
Exactly.
And now they're my collaborators. And it's just so cool to see how that grows.
absolutely. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I remember being the same way, Kelly. And then a couple of years ago, someone asked to take a picture with me, like, hey, can you stand beside my poster and can I get a picture with you? And I was like, that's really cool. It's kind of awkward, but it was really cool at the same time.
Yeah. Just wild how that journey progresses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So moving to PBTS, what drew you initially to the PhD and Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group?
Should I start?
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. Go ahead, Claudia.
The thing is, and I think that has changed now, but I didn't know about this working group. So I was asked to join, and that was via my involvement at the RCMB Planning Committee, where Steffi Crick came up to me and said, hey, I know this guy, Jarrod. They're looking for new people for this working group. So I thought that would be something for you. I was like, what working group? And then PhD, Basic and Translational Scientist Working Group. I was immediately like, wow, that could be something for me, because I really feel strongly for PhDs in the biomedical research community. Then I met Jarrod and at the reception, right? Birmingham, University of Alabama reception.
Yes.
And at ATS last year. And I was, and then I was in. And then I became, I volunteered to be the chair of the subcommittee proposal. And I was working with an amazing crowd of people in that subcommittee, and it just was really successful. And we had so many proposals programmed this year that I'm still a little blown away. So that, yeah,
I
I'm
just
really
want to
happy to
take
be
a
part of it.
Absolutely. I just want to take a moment to highlight the work that Claudia and the members of the proposal subcommittee have really done this year. It is astonishing how many proposals were sponsored by the PhD and Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group that was really unheard of in years past. So a huge congratulations to the proposal subcommittee under Claudia's leadership. It's really been amazing. So
Thank you.
yeah, I would like to echo Jarrod's sponsorship in getting people involved in the working group and really finding people to lead. I got to meet Jarrod last year and get to know him a little bit more as we were kind of trying to think of ways that we could elevate some seminars. And Jarrod is the reason why I'm so active now. And so a huge thanks to Jarrod. But Jarrod, you've been involved for a while now. What was your experience in joining the PBTS working group?
Well, thank you, Kelly, for that. And Claudia, we're glad we found you to be a part of the group. So it's crazy. I have not been a part of the PBTS, as we call it, the PBTS working group that long. But I do know that I was searching, like most folks probably are at ATS, a home, somewhere where you could feel like you have a community, a family of folks to get involved with that have similarities to you. And this group does, because I'm a PhD scientist. I felt like it was an opportunity to get involved. And when I started with the Pulmonary Circulation Assembly, one of my first roles was the web director, and I worked there for 2 or 3 years doing the web related things with the pulmonary circulation. And when I kind of was like, well, I want to try something new. And I believe it was Natalie Bauer who was the liaison for pulmonary circulation. And I talked to her about the working group, and she explained to me what the things they were doing. I went to a meeting, and that was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And kind of fell in love with what I thought seemed like a good group, but also the ideas that the goals they had, the objectives they had, was really appealing to me. So I looked for, number one, a home, place to belong, but a group that was active. And so I saw that opportunity to really get involved with the group. So once we started, was like, well, the opportunity came up to become a co-chair with Rich Johnson, who's the other chair with me. And I took it because I saw a lot of really cool things that could happen with this group. Once we got the okay to add new folks and revitalize the group, that was kind of the goal and the mission for this year, is to revitalize this group, to get people in, to really build a culture of activity and productivity. That was the goal. So once we got that kind of going, the whole point was to build a group that basically could reach out and spread our mission, spread who we are throughout ATS. And that was kind of the goal. And with that, we were able to do a lot of really good things. In particular, as we talked about with the proposals, it was doing small things, making small changes, like sponsoring. Let's put the PBTS working group tag on these proposals. Let's see if we can't get more awards nomination letters out. Let's try a bunch of different things. And with the new revitalization of the group, people like Claudia, people like Kelly, others that joined with motivation, it's a beautiful thing, having those people motivated, we were able to do some really good things. And we really appreciate all those folks that come in and just with their motivation to really move the group along. And I think we did a really good job of that this year.
I think so too. I think, I've been involved with PBTS since I think it was 2022 I joined again because I was connected with someone who needed to pass the baton because they were taking more responsibility they became program committee chair. So they became really busy. And so they needed someone to hand off the representative role to. And I've seen just how the group has grown even in these last 3 years. It's really been amazing to see. So thank you, Jarrod, and to Rich for leadership. And I'm just so grateful to be involved in this group. I'd like to take a minute to shift gears a little bit and talk about your research, its connection to ATS and the PBTS working group, and how your involvement has shaped your professional journey. So, Claudia, could you share a little bit about the primary focus of your current research, any projects that you're really excited about, and how that research has benefited from ATS?
Sure. The main research interest at this point is to harness the collagen biosynthesis pathway for treatment of lung fibrosis. And for that, we have built a bioinformatic pipeline that really allows us to use mass spectrometric data to analyze collagen and extracellular matrix in molecular detail, because I think, well, if you want to target the collagen biosynthesis pathway, you have to make sure you do not target all the collagen, but you target like the bad collagen only. And I think we do have a good pathway, a good bioinformatic pipeline to characterize that in full detail, and then to target like just the bad collagen. And that's like what I'm working on in a nutshell. And that's also what I'm most excited about. I have in the past worked a lot on trying to find methods that could reflect disease pathology in vitro and ex vivo to replace animal experiments, to find complementary assays for animal experiments. So that has been another focus of my research that I'm still pursuing, even though I'm moving away from it a little bit now and really focusing on my collagen stuff. How did ATS help me? I think it's really, again, we come back to that community and contacts, opportunities for collaborations, people who you meet people who are willing to share their expertise, who are willing to share their insight. And in particular, since I'm a biochemist by training, I often do not fully understand what like the clinical gap is that I need to address. And in that respect, ATS has been really helpful, like getting me to know clinicians that are interested in basic and translational research and help me identify the critical gap that we need for medical innovation. And I think for that, ATS really has been extremely helpful to connect me to clinicians that want to make a difference in the current standard of care. So I think I would like to highlight that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Jarrod, you mentioned a little bit about your research already, but are there any projects that you're particularly excited about right now? And can you tell a little bit about how your research has benefited from ATS?
Yeah, so I'll start with how it's benefited. And it's similar to Claudia, where you have this access to all different types of experts, from clinicians to other scientists that have particular specific expertise and particular types of science and particular types of clinical backgrounds and different pulmonary diseases. It's very helpful to have those folks that come to your poster discussions or your poster session or your talks, and you just always get a lot of good feedback. Also, you get to see what the ATS deems cutting edge, what's the new stuff that's coming out. And a lot of times it kind of helps you kind of navigate and think. As a scientist, we're agnostic. We can apply our molecules of interest to anything. Oh, that would be really cool to really study in that type of disease. And so it's been really helpful to have just the many different backgrounds, the different exposures that you might not get at a smaller conference that's focused on, like, say, for me, glycobiology or glycans. It's all about glycans typically at a smaller conference, but here, how can I apply my glycan of interest to all the different pulmonary diseases? And so that's been very helpful. We've got a couple of things in terms of projects that are exciting. One we just published a paper on, and we're trying to pursue in more detail, is the role of these different sugars. They're called sialic acid, and their roles on mucins, and how these mucins make up mucus. And so we're looking at it in different pulmonary diseases like CF, COPD, potentially how sialation affects mucin conformation, expression, its ability to transport, move, that kind of thing, in the different diseases. And it turns out that sialation is very important for mucin biosynthesis, also its conformation and movement. So that's kind of cool, and we're exploring that in more detail, and in particular CF and outside of the lung, since a lot of with the new modulator therapies in CF, we're actually getting outside of the lung as well. So with that, there's a lot of room for growth and with glycans and CF and COPD. Also, we're very interested in, again, pulmonary hypertension, looking in the pulmonary vascular disease. We have a couple of projects. One particular interest was a glycoprotein that is a cell surface glycoprotein. It's important. Seems that it's important in vascular remodeling and cell proliferation and in the vasculature of PH patients. So a lot of cool things that we're very interested in. I've got other projects as well, but those are two ones that I really want to highlight.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really exciting to hear how you're collaborating with clinicians and learning from clinicians. And I think one of the beautiful things about ATS is how collaborative it is. And I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit in what I had planned to ask you, because I think this is a really important thing to highlight, because we talk a lot about how our work benefits from being able to connect with clinicians. But what unique perspectives do you feel that our working group, the PhD in Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group, brings to the ATS community and to clinician scientists within the society? Claudia, do you want to start?
Sure, and I'm sure Jarrod can fill in a lot. But I mean, obviously, I think we have PhD scientists have a very often very specific and detailed skill sets. We bring new technologies, we develop new technologies. We have the biochemical molecular biology understanding to interpret these results. Our training is really ideal for understanding disease on a molecular and cellular level. And I think this is the unique, and the new technology, of course, that is developed by a lot of PhD scientists. And I think with these two things really facilitate innovation and new discoveries. So, and I think that's absolute key for biomedical research.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Jarrod?
Yeah, completely agree. In a time right now where there's a lot of uncertainty with research and innovation, I think we all can, especially within our group, can speak of how important research is. Everyone probably has a story or a loved one potentially that's dealt with some type of disease, whether that be pulmonary or something else. And a lot of the technology or the discovery, the innovation, the therapies that we use came from research, whether that be really, really basic, a single cell organism, on up to studying from in the clinic and humans, we learn a lot from studying simple cell pathways, fundamental pathways. And so a lot of us in the working group have that knowledge, and we bring a lot of that, those things that seem like, oh, we're probably the only ones in the world working on that. You go to ATS, you're going to find out that there's maybe two or three people, maybe more, that are interested in that pathway you thought you were probably the only one working on. So it's really cool when you start sharing ideas like that and you see that come out, that, hey, there are a lot of people that could be interested in this, and this may have the chance to not only just treat one patient like an MD does, sees one patient at a time. This has an opportunity to treat thousands, maybe millions of patients with the right research and guidance and getting that to therapy. It's really cool. If you think about it that way, we have the opportunity to treat a lot of patients.
Definitely. I totally agree. And I think that another key thing that the PhD in Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group and PhD ATS members bring is methods expertise. I mean, just the depth of expertise in a specific method. I mean, we have behavioral scientists in our working group who are, the best at survey research, and they're just brilliant. And so the ability to find these folks who are so knowledgeable about a specific method, a clinician scientist who maybe doesn't have as much of a research background could find someone from our working group, where our working group could help connect them with those folks, to really elevate the research mission of ATS.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. So talking a little bit more about the ways that ATS helps support the careers of PhD members, are there any other ways outside of your research that ATS has helped you grow professionally or personally? Jarrod, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So ATS being a big organization, it's very structured. It's a business, it's an organization, and there's different levels of it. And it takes a lot of folks to come together to make all of the conference happen. I'm sure they're starting now about next year's, they've already planning way in advance. So a lot of ATS in my mind has taught me personally, and in terms of administrative, the way I handle a lot of things, being able to get involved with these different groups, even to co-chair, to be a liaison, to be a part of executive committee meetings. It's helped me to learn how to interact with folks professionally. And it's also helped me with business, thinking about organization and how organizational culture and structure works. And it's helped me in a lot of ways. By chairing one group, you see what works when you have success like we've had in the working group, applying that to other positions or committees where you're able to be in leadership. You use a very similar format, or the way you build your culture or build your mission and vision for the group, it can be translated to those other groups. And then you see it happen again, that you have the same success. And, ATS given me opportunity to start and get in those leadership roles gave me experience to be able to do it in other places or other committees that I'm a part of, internally here at UAB, as well as other things that I do in the community.
Definitely. That's fantastic. Claudia, how about you? Are there other ways that your role in ATS has helped you grow?
I don't have so much to add, actually, to what Jarrod already said. It sums it up pretty nicely, I think. For me personally, it's helped me in my personal growth. And this is mostly because of the opportunities and because people pushed me to take those opportunities, right? Like mentors and people who believed in me within the ATS community. So really, it's helped me gain a lot of confidence in taking leadership positions, writing a proposal to give a seminar, these things, there's no other community that I feel, or no other association really, that I feel has been inviting me so much to do these things. So yeah, so that has really helped me in my personal growth and building up the confidence to do these things. And then being on the planning committee, I got a lot of insight how these things work, how these things are being discussed, what are the proposals that the community is looking for, what are people looking for when they want to, well, when we discuss who should get an award in our community. All of these things has really helped me understand how things in a big association like the ATS work, and that's been super helpful, and also will help me in other areas of my work besides the ATS.
Definitely. I think those are important things for especially early career folks to really hear and acknowledge, because ATS is such a supportive organization for those who are early, and there are so many opportunities for mentorship and getting involved that it really does build that confidence and those leadership skills that you can apply to really any area of your professional and personal role. So totally agree with you both. Next, I'd like to hear a little bit about your thoughts on the future. What are you most excited about with the PBTS working group, and what advice would you offer to early career scientists? So Jarrod, I'll start with you. As one of the co-chairs of PBTS, what are your short and long-term goals within the PhD and basic and translational scientists working group?
Yeah, so short term, we would love to duplicate the success that we had this year. And that's not a phony answer. That's a real answer, because we had real success this year. I thought, again, as we discussed earlier, so many folks were motivated, keeping the motivation going. Short term and long term. That's really long term too, but short term is keeping that going. Coming up with new ideas for the group next year, but also maintaining some of the key things that worked. Fixing those things that maybe we didn't have as much success with. Can we get those to the strength of the ones that did work? That's our short-term goal. I think we also want to continue to grow and keep our group lively. That is major for us. And long-term, we want to grow so much that we become the place for all PhD scientists. And it becomes such a thing where we are known at ATS as that group, the PhD group. Everybody knows about it. Everybody wants to be a part of it. And it's bigger than just, 40 or 50 folks that we have currently. With that, we grow and we're a section or whatever that may be, that we're at 500, 1,000 PhDs that have come here and found that there's a lot of success here. There's a lot of room to grow here, and there's a lot of science here that can be done. I think if we can grow to that level where people know the name, they feel like it is home and it is a place where they can be a part and belong, that's where I want to get to long term.
Absolutely. I think that short-term goal of duplicating this year's successes is very much within reach. There was a lot of learning that we all did in this last year about even just processes within ATS. And I think that we are armed with that knowledge for next year, and our trajectory will only be upward from here. So
That's awesome. I hope so too, Kelly.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
agree.
That's great. Claudia, talking more generally about ATS, we've talked about this a little bit in your experiences, but what advice would you give to early career PhD scientists and how they can get involved or benefit from ATS?
I would really say take every opportunity that you can get to interact with people, to approach people, take part in those mentoring activities that are advertised every year again. Try to get to know as many people as you can. Try to interact with as many people as you can. When you try to navigate the ADS, so if you're basic science, basic translational science researcher, make sure you know where the basic science track things are happening, get in touch with people. And then if you're about your specific interests, what I always try to do is really search for the keywords and then go to every thematic poster that was somehow related to what I do, and get to know the people that do the stuff that you do, yeah, or that work on similar pathways, similar proteins. And that has always, I have met the most amazing people by doing that, yeah. And otherwise, so I would not stroll through thematic poster sessions without an aim. I would really look for the things in the app first, and then make sure I go to I really go to the things that are particularly interesting for me in my research. I think both have their value, but I for me, a targeted approach like navigating the ADS works better.
Yeah, I think this is a great segue to what we're going to talk about next, because we're going to take some time to talk about my favorite part of the year, which is the annual conference. And Claudia, you mentioned going in with a plan is one of the best ways that you can really make the most of it. But it's all, it is fun kind of stumbling upon something that you've never learned, seen before. So your mention of both approaches are great. I totally agree. I think that there's benefit to both. So the ATS 2025 International Conference is going to be held in San Francisco this year. Are you planning to attend? And what are you most looking forward to about the meeting? Claudia, do you want to start?
So yes, I'm planning to attend. I'm looking forward, to all of it. I have to say, I'm mostly looking forward to meeting friends and former colleagues, and getting in touch with everyone again. I feel the ADS is, for me, it's like become a big family. And I'm just so excited to meet people again. I'm excited about the basic science track this year. It's really super interesting for me, and I'm excited that we got this Science and Innovation Network session programmed Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. You have to be there. It's the perfect spot, and we're going to be discussing differences and similarities between children's interstitial lung disease and adult interstitial lung disease. I'm really excited about that. I think that's about it. I'm actually excited about everything, but those were the highlights I wanted to mention.
It's such a big conference. It's hard to choose one favorite thing.
Totally,
or like what you're most
absolutely.
excited about. Yeah.
Yes.
Jarrod, how about you? Will you be there? And what are you most looking forward to, if so?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be there. Looking forward to it. A couple of things that I'm looking forward to, much like Claudia, is the networking, meeting folks that you see that once a year, right? At ATS, your friends, colleagues, the receptions, as someone brought up earlier, the reception, Claudia, I believe you brought it up. Always fun to go to those receptions and meet folks. It seems to be such a chill time to make those connections again, and it's always fun. I actually really enjoy that. I look forward to there's a PhD reception. I'm gonna make a shameless plug for that reception. It's Sunday, May 18th, 3 to 5, Moscone Center, South Terrace. That'll be the South Building, Level 3. You can find it on ATS website. The PhD reception is the SIC and PhD reception, probably more aptly named. But usually we have a good turnout for that. There's food, drinks, and it's a lot of fun. So come out for that. I look forward to that every year as well. We also have our PBTS working group meeting That'll be on that Sunday as well. It'll be very early in the morning. I think it's like 7:30 in the morning, something like that. Not sure of the location. That's to be continued, but we will, once that is known, we will be sending that out for our members. But looking forward to seeing everybody there in person within our working group. And again, I enjoy going to all the sessions. Look forward to that. Problem is sometimes like you miss other good sessions because there's so many good sessions at the time that you want
That's
to see
true.
yours, right? And
It's
so
sometimes so hard to
I
choose.
know it absolutely is.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Rich Johnson, our other co-chair, and the roadmap subcommittee, they actually did a really good job this year of putting a roadmap together for anyone that's like a little apprehensive about how am I going to navigate this? As Claudia talking about navigating and coming in with a plan is a good idea. We may alleviate some of that burden of putting a plan together for you because we have a roadmap that's coming out for PhD scientists. It'll have highlights. And be honest, we're going to highlight a lot of the proposals that we sponsored, but there's a lot of good information in there, even the reception. Other things like the award sessions probably in there as well. So this roadmap will be kind of a one-stop shop for you to find particular sessions that may be of interest to you. So when that comes out, be looking out for it. I'm not sure how it's going to be distributed right now, maybe by email. I'm not sure the avenues, but be on the lookout for the PhD working group roadmap, and that'll be helpful for those that need navigation help.
Definitely. Having
Definitely.
having a plan, especially if this is your first time attending ATS or if you are still pretty new to ATS, having a plan makes a huge difference. And I also think going to your assembly meetings is a great way to meet people if you're going alone. Don't be afraid if you're early career or it's your first time attending or you don't have anyone you're going with. Find another person who seems to be standing by themselves and introduce yourself and start talking about your shared interests, because your assemblies are where those shared interests congregate. So great way to start meeting people and hearing about all of the different activities going on within your assemblies is a great place to just find another home outside of the SIC and PhD receptions. Those places are the best places to start meeting people. Thank you both for sharing a little bit about the conference and what you're excited about. And again, another plug for the PhD roadmap that'll be coming out soon, which is sponsored by the PBTS working group. So before we close, I want to hear a little bit about your thoughts on what you find to be the most important or valuable about the PhD and Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group. So if there's one thing, Jarrod, maybe I'll have you start, that you hope listeners take away about the PhD and Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group or the ATS community, what would it be?
So for the working group, it's a home. It's a home for you. For those that are interested and need somewhere to call home or want a community of folks of like-minded research backgrounds, this is the home for you. And please join us. We're working on a web page. We've got it there. They're upgrading to all the new web pages. And what's cool about that is they're adding a link for our working group at every assembly. So you should be able to locate that. We hope to have also a link added where you can click to say, I want to get involved, and send us your information so we can maybe you can become a part of that group, us as a family. So home family is what I would love to say about the PhD working group. In terms of the ATS community, it is a place where you can come and build your repertoire. You can gain knowledge, and there's so many folks here, different backgrounds, that it can be your city and where your home for the PhD working group resides. It's the city that you come to visit, to meet all the folks there, to gain new network, new friends, and new collaborators. So come to the ATS every year after this one. Come to this one, and then I bet you won't stop coming.
Yeah, you'll be hooked. And what a
Yes.
great way to describe the PBTS and ATS, the home and the city where you reside. That's wonderful. Claudia, what about you? Anything you hope listeners take away about PBTS or the ATS community?
I really can only echo what Jarrod said. It does feel like a home. I felt welcome from the start. I felt people are interested in what you want to say, what you bring, what skill set you bring. It's a home for PhDs and basic and translational scientists. So yeah, be part of the family.
Fantastic. Well, that brings us to the end of today's podcast. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Dr. Claudia Staab-Weijnitz and Dr. Jarrod Barnes for joining me today and for sharing their stories, insights, and the important work that they're doing within the ATS community. If there's one thing that I hope that listeners take away, it's that the PhD in Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group is vibrant, it's collaborative, and it's really an essential part of ATS. And we're really committed to fostering an environment where scientists can thrive and really contribute to the American Thoracic Society. And I think that's something that we are doing, especially under our leadership and with the members of the working group. If you're listening and you're interested in getting involved with the PBTS working group, or if you'd like to learn more about what we're doing, you can visit our webpage on the ATS website and reach out for opportunities to get involved. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time as we continue to highlight the incredible work being done by the PhD and Basic and Translational Scientists Working Group in the ATS community.
Thank you for joining us today. To learn more, visit our website at thoracic.org. Find more podcasts from the ATS assemblies on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a show.